To Germany now, where the Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt has defended his government's direct contacts with the Taliban, arguing they are necessary to carry out deportations to Afghanistan. In July, the new German government organized its first flight, sending 81 convicted Afghan offenders back under Taliban rule. The previous government did the same with 28 offenders a year earlier. Both of these agreements had been brokered by Qatar. Now, with direct talks underway, the opposition accuses the government of breaking a political taboo by negotiating with a group that systematically violates human rights, represses women, minorities, and critics. Dobrindt doubled down in Parliament this week. He insists the deportations serve Germany's security and rejects claims of legitimizing a regime his government doesn't recognize.
We are deporting offenders and serious offenders to Afghanistan. That is in the security interests of the people in our country. And that's why we stand by this. We will ensure that these flights continuously, regularly and properly return offenders to Afghanistan, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever deports offenders to Afghanistan does not make themselves a henchman of the Taliban. But whoever wants to prevent these deportations to Afghanistan may perhaps be making themselves a henchman for offenders in Germany. Let me make that clear.
Let's bring in Gerald Knaus. He's a migration analyst and the director of the European Stability Initiative, a think tank here in Berlin. Mr. Knaus, welcome back to DW. Now, first things first, Germany is the only EU country currently carrying out deportations to Afghanistan. Why is Germany going its own way here?
Well, I think one major reason is that Germany, together with Austria, has been a major country of destination for Afghan asylum seekers. In recent years, more than half of all the Afghans who received protection in the whole European Union received it just in two countries, Germany and Austria. And of course, Germany is much bigger, so the number has been much higher here. So for Germany, particularly the last 4 years, this has been, after Syrians, by far the biggest group of asylum seekers.
The Interior Minister, whom we heard earlier, says these deportations are necessary for Germany's security. How convincing is that case to you?
Well, it very much depends on who is being sent. But if I go back to the very first deportations to Afghanistan of convicted offenders or criminals that took place under the old government, the previous traffic light coalition under Olaf Scholz. At that time, it was, in fact, people who had committed crimes. Only people where both the German Asylum Agency and the courts had said that they were not in need of protection. And since the Länder are involved, the 16 Länder, it was striking that almost all Länder participated in sending people who either were in jail, had been sentenced, or were outside but had been convicted before. And these Länder included Länder which had a governor or a prime minister from the left party, Thuringia at that time, but also the prime minister from the Green Party, the Minister President in Baden-Württemberg. So there was a cross-party consensus that sending convicted criminals on this flight then was in the interest of Germany. And since then, the new government has increased the numbers, but we are still talking about a few dozens. It will be, in the most optimistic scenario, a few hundred people. But I think there is a strong consensus that if people do not need protection, so they are not in fear of persecution by the Taliban, as established by the courts and the asylum agency, and if they have committed crimes while they were in Germany, that they have no right to stay in Germany.
Yeah, just for our viewers who don't speak German, who are not familiar with the federal structure here, the Länder are, of course, the federal states here in Germany, 16 of them. What caused outrage was not so much the flight itself, because we had seen those before. It was the fact that it became known that the German government had held direct talks with the Taliban as opposed to talks with Qatar mediation, as had been practiced until now. The government insists that these conversations don't amount to recognition. That might be true, but doesn't it legitimate the de facto leaders?
Well, I think if we look back at some of the debates that took place after the Taliban arrived in power, in seizing Kabul in summer, August, I think it was 2021, there were then some debates in the Bundestag. And during those debates, even then Chancellor Angela Merkel actually said that there had to be contacts. There were things that one should discuss with the Taliban. I don't think it's sustainable for very long, now that the Taliban really are the established government in Afghanistan, not to have contacts and to then say, well, we have no direct contacts, but it passes through Qatar, as was done in the first deportation, really makes very little difference. The question is,
but isn't it dangerous to
quid
rely
pro
on
quo?
militant
You know,
Islamists?
what is Germany giving?
Exactly. What do the militant Islamists get in return?
Yes, well, we don't know at the moment. And I think that's a legitimate question. It's a political evaluation. There is a massive interest in Germany to deport convicted criminals. Any one case, as we've seen in recent years, especially if they happen before elections, has become a cause célèbre, a major issue in German politics. So there is a national interest in acting. And there is, obviously, there are moral and political concerns talking to a government that is discriminating viciously against women and against other groups in society. And yet, at the same time, Germany has relations with many governments around the world that have very nasty, many states around the world that have very nasty governments. It is a political question. It's not a question of international law. What is a question of international law is who you deport and whether their human rights are violated. Whether you talk to them or you talk to them directly or you offer them a consulate or you offer them full recognition, that is not clear at this moment what Germany is offering. But one thing is clear, the Taliban will want something in return. And once we know what it is, we can have a rational debate whether that is too high a price or not. But to explore this, I think makes sense. And I'm sure other European governments will be doing the same very soon.
As migration analyst Gerald Knaus, we appreciate your insights. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.